They have your names already. أهلا خالد كيفك؟ أهلا. No? Gentlemen, welcome to our discussion panel. As I mentioned, three distinguished guests with us with a lot of experience under their wings. Mr. Jian began his aviation career over 38 years ago, and he has quite varied experiences in passenger services, sales, flight dispatch, cargo, training, and if I'm not mistaken, the area of expertise lies in ground handling as well, and as well as cargo, primarily in Europe, right? Yep, yep. And he's currently general manager and CEO of Swissport Morocco. And we also have with us Mr. Khalid Shorbaji, qualified flight dispatcher with over 11 years of experience in the business. He has been with JetX since its inception in 2005, and you oversee 4 teams, I believe, in JetX headquarters. And he's involved in strategic planning. He's currently the operations manager, JetX Flight Support. And last but not least, Mr. Mohammed Hanno, again, over 39 years of experience in Europe and the MENA region. Excuse me. He established the ASE group of companies and is an active participant member in the IATA Ground Handling Council and Aviation Ground Services Agreement Working Group as well. He has been involved in the development and strategy of the ISAGO, which is the IATA Safety Audit for Ground Operations, Task Force and Oversight Committee, GOC, and as well the IGOM, which is the IATA Ground Operations Manual Foundations. Mr. Hanno is a board member of ASA, the Airport Services Association, and was recently appointed by IATA Operations Committee, if I'm not mistaken. He's currently the executive chairman of ASE Group. Gentlemen, welcome to our discussion panel. I think today we're discussing a topic that's of interest to everybody in the business regarding the handling of airplanes in the various airports. Again, for the audience, please feel free to jump in anytime. The mics are available to ask any questions. These gentlemen, I'm sure, will answer to everybody's satisfaction. I will start off by throwing a question to the group. There are general ground handling standards for commercial aviation set by IATA. And recently, IATA jumped in slightly to introduce some standards for the general aviation and business aviation. Do you see a similar initiative requirement for the general aviation handling in particular? I think maybe I'll start with Mr. Jian. They'll turn it on. It's on. Not working. Maybe we can switch microphones. No. Technical glitch. We'll go on MAL.
Out. Now it's okay. Now it's better. Yeah. Thank you. I think there is just from the logic there, where if you're in an industry which is as highly regulated as the aviation industry, and you have a segment which is not kind of so much regulated, you have to. And there are definitely the same safety, security concerns that you have everywhere. We're talking about human lives. And there, in any case, there has to be a standardization in whatever aspect. This is our attitude to this kind of to the business in general, anyway. So there's no secret about it.
Right. Okay. So Khalid.
Yeah, I totally agree. As mentioned by Mr. Join, we have one, maybe I would say, difficulty here in our region, uh, just to identify the FBO service and what they are doing and what is the power accessibility they have. Not everyone is using the same as the
Same standard.
same standards. So one of the challenges that if you get an FBO and you don't own the equipment, or it is managed and run by still the airport authority, you still have and hold the name of an FBO, but the services and the standards are not controlled by you. So in my opinion, when we talk about standards, we have to know that the capabilities and requirements for everyone is the same. And then if they will get accountable for failure, for services, for safety and security.
Mr. Hanno?
I personally do agree with both my colleagues. And in addition, I would rather say that we have to differentiate between the standards of the ground handlers and the standards of the regulators or the stakeholders. Stakeholders, I mean airports, they should be as well have standards of regulation. I don't mean the ICAO, or I don't mean the civil aviation standards for airports, but the personnel working at airports, they have to understand what the ground service providers are doing. What is aviation? What is the industry? A lot of personnel in airports, they cannot differentiate. I had lately, without mentioning the name of the airport, was discussing with someone of the airport authorities regarding SMSs. I said, yes, I certainly do. Here. And he got out his mobile to show me the short messages. So.
Right. But do you think that the role of such an education should lie on someone else, or should it lie on the FBO itself to educate the workers that they have with such differences between, for instance, handling a commercial aircraft or handling a business jet aircraft? Khalid, what do you think? As an education role, I mean, as Mr. Muhammad mentioned.
Yeah, actually, if we leave it to the FBO itself, it's not going to be a standard. There should be a party which is going to regulate all services and put the requirements.
As a neutral
definitely, yeah.
body.
Because actually, even the rating for the equipments, the recurrent and so on, unless there is an audit required to see the current training program for the next year and so on, usually it is something, of course, the big FBOs, they have their FBO manuals and they have the ground handling manual, which has the checklist, the trainings, and so on. But unless we put this from a neutral party to put the regulations and put the requirements, and then it becomes applicable on everyone.
Thank you. Jean, what's your view on having the responsibility more on the FBO side to train and educate the handlers than the airport authorities, for instance? Or
I am a generalist in the handling field, where we treat everything from, let's say, Ryanair, especially here, and low-cost airlines, especially here in the Moroccan market, up to the top end, which is executive aviation with VVIPs and so on. And you can set technical standards that you do, and for me there's no difference in handling a 737 of Ryanair and the Gulfstream of someone else, or an A340 of a governmental flight, for instance.
as ground support equipment?
As ground support equipment, in terms of how do I handle, how do I repair it, how do I maintain it, how do I approach a plane, how do I train my people, what is my biggest challenge today is not the technical side, where I agree we need international standards. You cannot leave it to one FBO and then you find this here, the other here, and here. My biggest challenge is a cultural one, and that's not only in Morocco. I've been in many countries, have you seen from the CV, where you have to try to understand where your safety issues are, and the safety issues are very frequently in the culture. So we're trying to have a non-punitive policy within the company that we share with many, many airlines in the world nowadays. But is it in the culture that someone, when he does a mistake, that he comes up and said, I did a mistake, so I smashed a tractor, or I did a damage to a tractor, or worse, I hit a plane and I hope nobody sees it, and so on. And this is the biggest challenge you have, and you have to convince your people that you are there, you have to work in a team, you have to learn from a mistake for the sake of everybody, that you can share an experience, and that this is eventually taking your company forward, and that it is taking you personally forward as well, because you appear as a responsible person, and not as someone who did a mistake,
Right.
and you're not being punished. And this is the big challenge we're facing, actually. I would say not only in Morocco, but in many other countries as well. And that's the way it is.
Thank you. Thank you. If anybody has a question regarding this particular issue, please feel free to jump in or send me a note. I'll put it forward to the panel. There are rating agencies for FBOs in different parts of the world and different airports and different countries. Do you feel there is a need for an independent rating agency to rate the FBOs using our regional standards, taking into account the preferences and peculiarities that exist in our markets here in the Middle East and North Africa? And how would you recommend that such a thing would be accomplished? Mr. Hanno?
No, I don't think to have an external auditor to come and rate the FBOs. I think the best people who would rate an FBO or a ground service provider is the regulators themselves. Civil aviation, they have high standards, and they should regulate the FBOs. We can get external auditors to check before going into